You really marrying a waiter? Those words from Betty cut into my world like shards of glass. That day I heard her laugh while I was in my wedding dress. Years later she came to me broke, carrying her bankruptcy papers and debts. Kneeling in front of me asking for help. She once mocked my choice in public. Now her smile was gone, her voice choked, her fingers grasping for dignity. I spread the contract in front of her, calmly watching her struggle and regret. The ending was no longer hers to write. 3 years ago at my wedding. You are crazy, Lisa, Betty sneered. All that school and you pick a guy who carries trays. Mom frowned, her voice controlled. Betty, don't cause trouble today. Betty turned to her. I am just speaking the truth. I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled faintly. His name is Kevin, I whispered. I love him. Betty snorted. Love can pay the bills. She stepped closer, nails tapping on the table sharp and clear. Mom grabbed her arm. Get out. She shrugged off. Don't play the caring mother. The air was thick with perfume and hairspray. Betty smirked. You are avoiding reality. I looked at her, shadow long and sharp on the floor. You are the smartest in the family and now the dumbest. Mom's face showed a flash of tiredness. She is not you. Betty laughed. Yes, she didn't marry a rich man. I put down the bouquet, voice calm. I don't need that kind of money. She snorted. You will need it sooner or later. She leaned closer, voice lower. You will come back begging me. Mom's hand lightly touched my shoulder. Don't fight with her. Betty turned, her skirt sweeping the floor. Good luck, she said coldly. The door closed, leaving the scent behind. I could hear my heartbeat clearly. Mom sighed. She never understood what happiness is. I said she only knows how to win. Sunlight came through the window, dust floating slowly. I touched the edge of my wedding dress. The stitch is fine. Assistant knocked the door. The bride is ready. Mom handed me the bouquet. I said she will come to watch. Mom frowned. Don't let her ruin your day. I smiled. She won't ruin it, just perform. Mom whispered, then treat it like watching a play. We walked out the hallway filled with the smell of flowers and champagne. Outside, the chapel guests came in. Betty sat in the first row, center, perfect posture. Dad sat beside her, stiff. He looked at me, eyes avoiding. Music started, soft flute. I held Mom's hand step by step, walking into the chapel. Betty's eyes were like needles. I could feel her counting every detail of me. She whispered to the person beside her, laughing short and harsh. I looked ahead. Kevin stood there, eyes calm like a deep well. The pastor opened the Bible, voice solemn. If anyone objects to this marriage, speak now. The air froze. Betty stood up. Her chair fell with a crash. I object, she shouted loud and clear. Guests whispered. I heard some sighing, some covering faces. Dad's face sank. Sit down. Betty ignored him. Are you all blind? She pointed at Kevin. He is a poor waiter. Mom stood. Betty, shut up. Betty, voice higher. Lisa is crazy. She is going to ruin herself. I took a steady breath. Have you finished? She sneered. You will regret it for life. Kevin reached for my hand lightly. I whispered, continue. Pastor glanced at me and nodded. Betty bit her lip, shaking. She spun around and walked out of the chapel. Heels echoed on the stone floor. The door opened. Sunlight came in. Everyone looked at me. I smiled slightly. Please continue. The pastor started reading the vows again. I looked into Kevin's eyes. No panic. Ring went on. I said I do. Applause filled the air. Petals fell from the ceiling. Mom wiped her tears. Dad looked down, silent. I turned and saw a car outside. Betty's car parked far away. She yelled into the phone. Kevin whispered, she still won't give up. I said she never will. Laughter and congratulations outside. The wedding car slowly moved. I leaned back, the dress spread around my feet. He turned to me. You okay? I smiled. I won without grace. He held my hand. But you won. The street outside flashed past, light and shadow. I saw Betty's car in the distance. Her face pale in the sunlight. She bit her lip like plotting something new. I knew it wasn't over. Her humiliation had another scene coming. Kevin whispered, "Don't worry about her." I nodded, "I don't care, I will wait for her self-destruction." He smiled, "You are too calm." I said, "I just have a good memory." Red light ahead. He gripped the wheel, "Going for your revenge." I looked at the light, going to finish the ceremony. After the wedding, Betty never came to our home again. Mom said she started a company outside. I knew that company relied on Dad's connections. Dad had a position in the business council, never short of contacts. Betty liked to appear at parties, center of attention. Her smile always perfect without flaw. Kevin and I rented a small apartment. Rent $1,800 a month. He worked at the hotel during the day. I stayed home writing and editing for magazines. Sometimes the power went out at night. He lit candles, said it was romantic. I laughed, romantic and poor. He said poor can be dignified too. Betty called while I was washing dishes. She said, "Your mom is sick." I put down the dishes, hands wet. "What's wrong?" I asked. She said the hospital is run by a friend, calm like reporting weather. I rushed there. She was chatting with the doctor, smiling. Her bag took up half the bed. Mom's face pale. She whispered, "Lisa, don't worry." Betty turned, "You finally came." She looked me up and down. I wore an old coat, hair messy. She pressed lips, smiling, living frugal after marriage. I ignored her, just looked at Mom. Doctor said a few days observation. Betty pulled out her card, "I will pay." I said, "No, I can handle it." She smiled, "You can." I said yes. After the doctor left, she came closer. "Lisa, you always need to prove something." I didn't answer. She said, "Reality doesn't care about proof." I turned and held Mom's hand. She sighed, "Don't fight here." Betty shrugged, "I am just speaking the truth." The day Mom was discharged, she brought flowers. Expensive with strong fragrance. Kevin helped me carry meds. Betty stood by the car. "Lisa, you still write stuff without pay." I said, "There will be pay eventually." She laughed, "Oh right, you have dreams." Mom coughed. I said, "Let's go." She called Lisa. I turned. She said, "Visit my company sometime, I need a secretary." I said, "I don't want to be your subordinate." She raised an eyebrow, "You can't refuse." Kevin blocked her, "Don't say that." Betty smiled, colder, really protective. I said, "He is not short." She paused, face changing slightly. I helped Mom into the car. Outside, she stood in the sunlight. Flowers and hand petals blown by wind. Kevin drove silently. I looked in the rearview mirror. "She wants me to bow." He smiled, "She can't see your direction." I laughed, "She only watches the shadow at her feet." Years passed. I started writing novels. Magazines rejected me 20 times, then I signed with a publisher. First book sold okay. Second started making money. Betty moved her company to a new building. I occasionally saw her on the news. She stood in front of the camera, smile flawless as ever. But I knew that smile always came at a price. Kevin became restaurant manager. We moved to a slightly bigger apartment. Dad retired, came often for tea. Mom's health stable. Everything seemed calm on the surface. Until that call. That night Betty called crying. Her voice trembling, "Lisa, can you lend me some money?" I froze. "Company in trouble," she said softly. I was scammed. I stayed silent. Glass breaking on the other end. She panicked, "I know I wronged you before." I asked, "How much?" She paused, "2 million. I laughed, "You dare say it." She cried, "More please." I listened to her rapid breathing. Kevin sat beside me, calm. I hung up. He asked, helping her. I said she never helped me. He nodded, but she will call again. I said I wait for the third time. Sure enough, 3 days later she called. Lisa, I can put up shares as collateral. I said I don't take shares. She froze. Then what do you want? I whispered, I want you to apologize. Silence for a few seconds. She laughed. You still so dramatic. I said you don't have to lend. She stayed quiet. I heard her inhale. Sorry, she finally said, almost inaudible. I laughed. This time I believe you. Next day I transferred $500,000. Kevin asked why not all. I said she needs another lesson. A few months later she called again. Exhausted voice, Lisa, help me again. I asked how much. 1 million left, she said. I said meet me in person. She hesitated a moment. Okay. We met at her office. She wore a white shirt, face pale. Papers piled on the desk. Her fingers shook on the papers. You won, she said, looking at me satisfied. I said I didn't win, I just waited. She smiled bitterly. Waited for what? I said waited for you to see Eve never lost. She leaned back, eyes closed. I was too foolish. Before she whispered. I watched her expression, no pity. You weren't foolish, just used to stepping on people. Her mouth twitched. Now you gonna step on me? I smiled. I just stand tall. She lowered head, voice tight. What should I do? I said start over. She snorted. Sounds like a novel. I said my novel's all sold. She looked at me with hate in her eyes. I said don't hate, save it for debts. She inhaled deeply. You will regret. I smiled. I am used to winning. That day I left her office. She didn't follow. In the elevator mirror, my shadow clear. Door closed. She still shivered. I heard her nails tapping on the desk. Weeks later Betty's company went bankrupt. News photos, she wore sunglasses. Comments said once powerful woman collapsed. I turned off my phone, didn't look. Kevin looked at me, finished. I said just beginning. He nodded. What will you do? I said take back her dignity. He laughed. You want her to regret being alive. I said worse than death. Third month after Betty went bankrupt, media still reported her. Headlines, always once fallen betrayed. Kevin in kitchen peeling apples. TV showed her old interviews. She was youngest director, host marveled. I turned off TV, took remote. She is looking for a job, Kevin said. I nodded. She won't find one. That Monday she called. Voice low like fog. Lisa, I need a place to stay. I put down pen. Why me? Because you still remember me, she said. I laughed. I remember your wedding day. Smile too. She didn't speak, just light inhale. What do you want? I asked. Please let me stay a few days, she said. Kevin looked at me. I nodded. Okay, I said, but follow the rules. Next day she came with luggage. Old sweater, shoes muddy. I handed slippers. She looked down. Thanks. Living room quiet. Clock ticked on wall. Kevin went to work. I made tea. She sat on couch edge, not leaning back. Didn't expect to live in your home, she whispered. I said I didn't expect to agree either. She looked up. Why willing? I said watch how you fall. She silent half a minute, drinking tea. Hand shook, tea spilled on table. Company trouble, my fault, she finally said. I didn't reply, just handed tissue. She wiped table slowly. Thought I could control everything. I said you said reality doesn't care about proof. She smiled bitterly. I had money then. I leaned back. Now you have memory. Her eyes flickered. That night I wrote in study. She paced at guest room door. Lisa, I can help organize your materials, she asked. I said first sort yourself out. She nodded, went out. Footsteps light as if afraid to disturb air. Few days later she started cooking on her own. Kitchen smelled like food. Kevin tasted one, it's good. I said people learn fast when down. Betty stiffened heard that. I didn't look at her. That Friday I took her to publisher. She followed behind. Editor shook hands warmly. Lisa, great manuscript. She froze looking at rows of books. I said, this is my 7th book. She nodded. You write a lot. I looked at her. Write about yourself too. She smiled bitterly. Can't write. You can. I said, you just don't dare be honest.